Coming up on a special edition of LUTV News, two mothers have suffered the ultimate loss. We talk about the tragedy that struck their families and what they are doing to help keep it from happening to anyone else. Welcome to this special edition of LUTV News. I'm Cassie Hall. Today we are talking about an epidemic that is invading our community, heroin. Until recently, heroin use is something that was considered taboo and hardly ever talked about. People used words like junkie to describe people who suffered from a heroin addiction. Now it seems as if the drug is everywhere. It's becoming more common that people are seeing their neighbors, their friends, and even their family be touched by the drug. And because of this, the conversation is taking a different turn. In today's show, we will look at two families who have suffered from the effects of heroin. We will see the journey they went through and how they turned their tragic experience into good. Givina and her family live in O'Fallon, an upper middle class town with a low crime rate. When she started having problems with her 17-year-old daughter, Nikki, she assumed she was dealing with typical teenage hormones. It had never crossed her mind that her daughter could be a heroin addict. One morning, Guy walked into Nikki's room prepared to argue with her about going to school, but instead, she found her unconscious.
She was on her side and she was frothing at the mouth. She was totally gray. Eyes were rolled back in the back of her head. She was ice cold. And it was just, you're looking like, what in God's name is going on here? And you're screaming because you don't even know what you're looking at. How can I be talking to a kid one day and the next day I come into her room and she looks like this?
Guy didn't understand what was wrong with Nikki. That was until the EMT broke the news.
You're in the back of the room just horrified because you don't even know what's happening. And you're sitting there and he's like, what kind of drugs does your daughter do? And I'm like, I say none because I don't know. I mean, you know, smoking marijuana isn't going to cost. I don't know what this is. I don't even know if she really wasn't even one that would talk about smoking weed a lot, you know, or really was kind of more vehemently opposed to that. So, and I'm like, she doesn't do any drugs. And he's like, your daughter's a heroin addict.
Nikki's life was saved that day, but her battle with heroin was just beginning.
You know something is different. Something is going on and something is different, but you don't know what it is.
Guy said from that point on, her family was on the roller coaster from hell, and all she wanted to do was get the hell off.
The destruction of watching your child absolutely self-destruct in front of you, and you cannot fix it. And not only is the self-destruction on her, it's your whole family.
Guy finally realized that her daughter's addiction was a disease that Nikki would have to fight for the rest of her life.
It was never going to let her go. It never was going to. It was going to be forever. It was going to forever, forever, forever.
Nikki finally lost the battle and her forever ended. She overdosed on January 13th, 2013 at the age of 20 years old. Kelly Clodfelter lost her 17-year-old son Jordan to heroin almost 2 years after Guy lost Nikki. The two families suffered the same outcome, but their experiences were very different. Jordan tried heroin only one time, but one time was enough to cost him his life.
Jordan was 17 years old, and his actual first time to pick up was his last. Jordan made a bad decision. He was hanging out with some people. He was in a pretty dark place. We had just lost his baby sister, my daughter, to SIDS 5 weeks prior. And so I think that kind of incorporated what happened that night. I think he was just in a bad place and had been drinking. We know he was taking Xanax, and he was offered heroin. And he did a line of heroin, and he became unresponsive. And instead of them calling for help, he was in a house that was well known for selling heroin. They actually loaded him up and drove him 20 some odd miles to the hospital and dropped him off.
Jordan lived in Warrenton. Kelly, being a recovering addict herself, enforced a very strict no drug policy in their house. Jordan was smoking weed and taking Xanax, and because of his mom's rules, he decided to move out. The death of his sister brought him back home, and Kelly was happy to have her son back. That was until she got the call saying her son was in the hospital and she needed to get there fast.
Jordan was still alive when we got there. Later I found out it took them 40 minutes to get him to breathe again. And of course they fought that hard, of course, because he was 17 years old and he had vital organs. And that's the reason they knew that Jordan was going to be brain dead.
Kelly refused to believe that her son was gone until 3 o'clock the next afternoon when the doctors pronounced him clinically brain dead.
I remember that when my dad died, I was with him, and there was a smell that came from my dad's mouth. And I remember when I bent down to kiss Jordan, I smelled it. And I remember I just decided I wasn't going to tell anybody, because as long as nobody knew, maybe it wouldn't be so, you know. My son was dead.
People who lost a long battle with heroin have told Kelly that she's lucky she didn't have to go through the fight just to see the same ending. But Kelly said she would have rather had the opportunity to try and save her son's life, and Jordan would have wanted a second chance at saying no to heroin. 3 years after Guy lost her daughter and 2 years after Kelly lost her son, the two mothers talked about how their families coped with the death of their children. Guy said she's constantly conflicted between two feelings, guilt and peace.
This is a different level of pain. It's like she said, it's something that there's no words in the dictionary to make you understand what this pain is until you get those shoes and you have to wear them.
After losing their children, Guy and Kelly could agree on one thing: they wouldn't ever recover.
Because every day I wake up, the reality is the same. Every time I speak, the reality at the end of my day is the same. I can fight and fight and fight, but nothing is going to bring back my children. They're gone.
Guy said Nikki's battle with heroin was so physically, financially, and emotionally draining that she didn't know if she would be able to fight much longer.
And you as a family, you are a victim of your own child. You are a victim of them, stealing and lying to you and manipulating you and all the things that they have to do in order to not experience the withdrawal syndromes of opiate abuse. You become a caged animal in your own home. You didn't want to have to make this ultimate sacrifice to have peace. And that's really, regretfully, that's what comes of this, is that the addiction is over, the chaos is over, their struggle is over.
It's very sad that Jordan died. He was 17 years old and he had a whole life ahead of him. But I'll tell you, the sadder part of it is that I live. And I don't have a choice, and I didn't have a choice. And that's the reality.
Coming up, I'll tell you how these two mothers went through such devastation, turned their pain into motivation to tell their story and help other people.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it! I see it! Oh, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to this special edition of LUTV News. A heroin epidemic has invaded St. Louis and St. Charles County. Two families that lost their children to overdoses want to see the epidemic come to an end. When Guy lost her 20-year-old daughter to heroin, she knew she had to do something to keep other families from going through the same thing, but she didn't know what. One day she made a t-shirt that said "Stop Heroin" on the front, and underneath it said "I Heart Nikki." She put the shirt on and decided to take a walk around the neighborhood. She had no idea it would inspire so many people to come up to her and tell their own stories.
But then we did all that, and then, but I thought I would.
Walking for Wellness started as just that, Guy Vigna taking walks around her neighborhood. After losing her 20-year-old daughter, Nikki, to a heroin overdose, Guy wasn't sure how to move forward with her life.
It's just a walk, and then the walks led to meeting families who had lost children.
She had no idea that first walk was the start of her not-for-profit organization, Walking for Wellness.
The walks are to really generate education, to generate awareness, but also to really provide families a venue to be able to come to when they've lost a child or a loved one or a sibling or a brother, to be able to talk to other families, for people that have current users, to talk to people that come there who are in recovery.
But Walking for Wellness members don't just do walks. They travel all around the Metro St. Louis area giving education presentations, helping families who have lost loved ones, and working with law enforcement to help stop heroin.
Their monthly Life After Loss meetings. We are doing school educational programs. We started getting requests from the school. Will you come to the school and talk about what's going on with the walks, why you do this? We've paired up with the DEA right now, Strategy 360.
Samantha Dickman has been a part of Walking for Wellness since the start. When addicts go into treatment, Samantha and other members will meet with the family to talk to them before they visit the addict for the first time.
It's the first time that they're going to see their addict since they've been in treatment. So we kind of tell them, like, this is where your addict is at now, and this is, the things you're going to see about them. Like, you're going to see the old them again. You're going to see that spark in them, that light in them again.
Samantha said they also talk to families about the hard stuff that has to be talked about when dealing with a heroin addict, like how they want to be buried or whether or not they have life insurance.
Some people they'll come up, they'll thank you for being there, and other times you can just see that look of defeat.
Walking for Wellness is now active in 9 different cities, and you can reach any of them on their Facebook page at facebook.com/stopheroin. Kelly Clodfelter felt the same drive to make a change after losing her 17-year-old son, Jordan. Instead of focusing on families that have already been touched by heroin, Kelly focuses on keeping the kids from ever getting started. Jordan's Place is a not-for-profit teen hangout. Located in Warrenton, Kelly said she opened the safe haven in a place she knew kids could walk to, 1 block away from where Jordan overdosed. Inside, kids will find a pool table, a PlayStation 4, basketball, and flat-screen TVs. The mission of Jordan's Place is to give kids a place to hang out and have fun without facing the pressures of drugs or alcohol.
It's where kids need to be. And every time I walk in there, I can feel that's what it's supposed to be. It's for my kid. And I can't buy him a birthday present anymore. I can't get him anything for Christmas. So I have to fight in his honor. Basically, to volunteer there, you just come and you get to hang out with kids, play pool, remind the youth that there are adults that care enough to be there.
The counties themselves are also making an effort to stop the use of heroin by convincing kids to never even start. A St. Charles County initiative called CRUSH, or Community Resources United to Stop Heroin, took their message to Orchard Farm Middle School on Thursday. The day consisted of presentations and activities designed to convince kids that no good can come out of doing drugs.
We did not always make the best choices.
When kids arrived at Orchard Farm Middle School on Thursday, they were excited about a full day without classes. What they didn't know is they would learn a lesson just as important as math and science.
Hopefully they leave knowing that the choice to make is to not do drugs, and hopefully what they hear and see today helps them make those choices.
The students heard experiences from a DEA agent, a presentation from a former drug user, and had a class on the dangers of prescription drugs.
All the speakers are engaging, and it's been great information.
In between presentations, the kids visited stations in the hallway that offered prizes and gave more information about the dangers of drug use. Guidance counselor Danielle Murley says she hasn't seen many drug cases at the middle school, and they could be reaching the kids with this information just in time.
Thank goodness we don't have too many of these cases, but you never know when a student of ours is going to be experienced with that, whether it's going to be now or a year to 10 years down the road. So even if we impact one student's life, that's all that matters from today.
6th grader Bryce Westerfeld said he learned not only about how to say no, but also what to do if you see someone else using. There was one presentation in particular that caught his attention.
One guy, he ended up having to go to prison and quit a job, get divorced, and it sounds really bad.
He was talking about Chris Neiman, a recovering addict who is one of the few people who was able to get themselves clean after suffering an addiction to heroin. Now Chris spreads his message to keep kids from making the same mistakes that he did.
I didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. You know, when I was that age, I didn't know about addiction. I didn't realize it was behaviors that went along with it too that portrayed that. You know, so even though I might not have thought about being an addict at their age, I definitely displayed that quality. You know.
Crush plans on holding more teen summits at several middle schools and high schools around St. Charles County. If you want them to come to your school, you can contact Leslie Knight through the St. Charles County website. Up next on LUTV News, we will talk to a DEA officer who has dedicated his career to stopping heroin. He'll tell us why we are seeing so much of the drug and what law enforcement is doing to make it stop.
I drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
We taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver, the strike zone, the net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Here with us today to talk about how law enforcement is approaching the rapid increase of heroin in our area is St. Louis Division Drug Enforcement Administration Task Force Officer Juan Wilson. Did I get all that? Did I say all of it right? All right, perfect. So I just want to talk about first, why are we seeing such an increase of heroin in the area?
I think we can take it back to 2008. We started to see a lot of bulk seizures of cocaine. And the cartel, just as any proficient business person, once you lose a product, you have to, put in a new product in line. So heroin was readily available, and so they inserted heroin, and we started to see a large influx into the United States.
Why do you think it's hitting our community in particular so hard?
I think it's because the availability of it. It's very, very cheap now. It's very, very potent. We see a huge correlation and link with pharmaceuticals, with prescription opiates. And so we have a lot of people who are addicted to prescription opiates, and once the high is no longer the same, they have to transition to something else.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your day-to-day. What do your investigations look like through the DEA?
Each one is a little bit different. A lot of times I actually respond to the overdose scene. And it's really about collecting evidence, but then also making sure that the family has resources that they need, because they're left with a lot of questions. They're left with a lot of pain and hurt. So we have to make sure that we take care of the families that are involved too.
Okay. Tell me a little bit, when you finally track these guys down, what kind of punishments are they looking at? Prison sentences, fines? Is there a difference between whether somebody overdosed from their product or not, or do you deal with the difference at all, or do you only deal with overdoses?
There's a wide variety of different punishments that can happen. Right now I've been focusing on federal prosecution, which carries a minimum mandatory sentence of 20 to life. So we're talking about an extensive amount of time in federal prison due to someone distributing heroin to someone and then them dying.
What else is the DEA doing specifically about heroin to just crack down and really focus on this problem?
So DEA, they've enforced the DEA 360 strategy. What it is, it's a holistic approach to addressing heroin and prescription misuse. There are 4 pilot cities right now, and St. Louis happened to be one of those pilot cities that they rolled the 360 strategy out. And there's enforcement, police officers and federal agents, and we've been enforcing laws for quite some time. And we came up with the idea of, we're not going to arrest our way or jail our way out of it, but to take it a little bit even further is, law enforcement can't do it alone. So we also need to apply those community resources that are in there. So a part of the 360 strategy, what we're doing is we're doing a lot of prevention education and awareness. So we're going out to the schools and talking to the kids and trying to make sure that people are being put forward to all these resources that we have.
Okay. Explain what prescription drug monitoring, what that program is.
So the prescription drug monitoring program, the program actually, it allows people to talk. It allows the pharmacies to talk to each other. It allows doctors to see if someone is coming to them and getting a prescription, if they've been prescribed another prescription or had it filled somewhere else. So it allows a lot of those medical communities to talk to each other to help prevent doctor shopping, to help prevent get early intervention with the doctors with their patients, and it also prevents negative interactions with pharmaceuticals.
Missouri is one of the only states without a prescription drug monitoring program. Why do you think that is, and what do you think it'll take for them to finally put it in place?
It's very difficult because Missouri becomes the kind of the laughing stock of when we talk about what are we doing as far as intervention. Missouri is the only United States territory that doesn't have one. Puerto Rico and Guam actually have a prescription monitoring program, and we don't. It gets passed through the House every year and has been for the past several years. We just have a senator in the Senate that filibusters the prescription monitoring program. So hopefully this time we won't have that happen.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Some good information, and hopefully we can start seeing that program going into place pretty soon. So that's it for this special edition of LUTV News. I'm Cassie Hall. Thank you for joining us.